Welcome. I'm your host, Stefano, and this is When Leaders Talk, a podcast about leadership and, most importantly, about leaders. Leadership resembles a physics concept called unstable equilibrium. There is unstable balance. Basically, it's when a body is in a balanced position, but even a small force applied to this body will change it, will bring big changes. And to find a new balance, this body has to find itself in a very different situation. Well, leadership is like this in the sense that it's like kind of walking on eggshells, if you want, and you need to adapt to technological changes, adapt to evolution, and even in the human relationship side, on the human dimension, adapt to changing scenarios day by day or periodically. Well, adaptation is one of the things I've been talking to Fabio Pancaldi. Fabio Pancaldi is the guest of this great episode of When Leaders Talk. Fabio brings to this conversation his great experience as an entrepreneur and as a key member in Google and HubSpot, the company he works for now. He's the sales and partnership director for Australia and New Zealand. And if you look at his resume, you will see how his work has brought a lot of gains and success to the company he's been with. And actually, he still does. So he's surely a successful leader. He meets all the requirements for a successful leaders. We talk not just about adaptability, but we talk about how to build trust in a team, how important it is to listen to feedbacks, how important is to keep evolving and changing as a leader that himself defines as an infinite game, meaning that there is not like a final destination, but this improvement, the growth of a leader is endless in a good way, because as I mentioned at the beginning, everything changes. The people we work with change. The technology we deal with changes every day. And AI, something we've been talking about in this conversation, also brings something new every moment. And we need to adapt. Adaptability. So adaptability is surely the recurrent theme and thread in this conversation, but there will be more. And I really invite you to listen to this podcast carefully, because there are a lot of insight, a lot of interesting topics I discuss with Fabio in a little bit less than 60 minutes. Before I leave you to the interview, as always, let me remind you, you can follow me on all the social media, including LinkedIn, Twitter, and now Threads, and Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And also, if you are interested in coaching and with me, you can go on masteryourseed.com. And with no further ado, Fabio Pancaldi. Welcome, Fabio. Welcome to When Leaders Talk. I'm very happy to have you here.
Nice to be here, Stefano.
So, Fabio, you are, first of all, an Italian expat in Australia. Now you are an Australian citizen too, right?
Correct. We became citizens 3 years ago.
Okay, very good. And I really want to visit Australia, and I'm sure I will at some point in my life. But this interview is not about Australia or traveling, right? This interview is about leadership, and especially your view of leadership as a leader yourself. I've seen your curriculum. You have a fantastic experience, either as as an entrepreneur and working for great companies like Google and HubSpot, like the company I'm working with now. So I'm sure you will give a great contribution to this discussion that we have on leadership. And starting with it, what is your definition of leadership, if you have any definition?
That's a good question. Leadership to me is supporting the people you're working with and helping them unlock the best version of themselves. So you are in service of the people that you're working with, and making sure that you give them the very best you have to offer.
Okay, so it's very much centered on the employee, on the teamwork, rather than a task, a product, or the customers, right?
If you have done a good job in clarifying the why you're there, and you worked on your team mission and vision, then it is around the people, because you're assuming that there is a common understanding of the purpose and the goal. And so the focus you have is on unlocking their performance and making sure they're able to deliver on that shared goal. But definitely, you need to have done that job before, otherwise it's not effective.
Okay, so how do you do that? What are the skills that you use the most when you are with your team and to really create this environment that you've been talking about?
The first one is probably something that I learned a little bit down the way, and it's humility. As a new leader, you feel the pressure. You have to deliver. You have to know the path forward. You need to know everything. And as you mature, you realize that knowledge is far from being true. No? And so you need to be humble, and you need to respect the fact that you may not have an answer. And the people that
you don't need to be, I'm sorry to interrupt, you don't need to be the smartest person in the room, basically, right?
Absolutely not. And probably in all my experiences, that was made clear for me pretty early on. And so you cultivate that smartness from the people that surround you, and you kind of the director of an orchestra, and trying to bring all of this together and making sure that there is support, there is collaboration between the people in your team. And that support and collaboration develops even further the skills that they already have.
Okay, I like the idea of being the conductor of the orchestra, right there, and try to maneuver those people. What is the main challenges that you face as you are the director of sales and partnership for HubSpot in Australia and New Zealand? So what are the main challenges that you're facing these days?
Well, we are operating in a market that is obviously experiencing some contractions in terms of economy, that's happening everywhere in the world now. There is uncertainty, there is stress, there is fear among customers. Top of that, IT specifically is just coming out of a big hangover that happened in 2020 and 2021, when everyone was buying every piece of technology that was available in the market, just because there was this huge fear of missing out in the IT departments of medium and large organizations. So they bought everything. They probably found themselves not needing all the things they bought, or not using well enough all the things they bought. So that's an addition to the current market dynamics. So it's definitely not the easiest market to work within. And that's basically required us to change significantly the way we approach the market. And we were lucky and good enough probably to understand what our customer needed, and adapt quickly enough to that in order to be successful. And we've been having significant growth despite the current market conditioning this year so far. Touching wood, we continue doing that, but double-digit growth, and very soon.
Congratulations.
That's pretty good. Yes, we're pretty happy about it. But again, like it comes back to being humble, no? Like what has made you successful and what has made us successful before. The realization that wouldn't cut it in the new world, no? So you need to open yourself up and challenge everything has made you successful and has defined yourself to embrace a new you, no? And a new way of working with our customers. And it all came from. Actually, when you talk about it, it seems like, hey, Fabio, this is really basic, but like it's probably the most important element is like listen to what your customers are telling you, and then absorb that and adapt in alignment with what you've been told.
I love what you say about listening, because many times we found ourselves asking questions and then we just forget listening to the answer to the question, and we let our mind, or we don't want to listen to the answer for real. We just ask because we have to ask. But yeah, listening with intention, and you listen, as you mentioned, you have to listen your clients, your customers. And you have to listen your employees as well, just to foster a psychologically safe environment within your team, and something that apparently you do very well.
That's super important, for sure. Like again, doing it very well. Like again, leadership is dynamic. So I want to make sure that like you don't do well leadership. You can only aim at improving over time, no? But like there is not like I come from an engineering background, no? Like you build a bridge, either like it breaks or not. That's black or white, no? You build a good bridge, stays up. Leadership is a tiny bit different, no? Like there is this endless curve of learning that you need to develop. But definitely going back to your statement, psychological safety. It's so important because it goes back to getting the feedback in the first place. How can you expect proper feedback, getting the truth, the reality, if you don't build the environment to get that out,
And yes, absolutely. And it looks easy. It seems easy to say, it's easy to say I create a psychologically safe environment within my team, but it's not that easy. I mean, you really need to build trust, and trust is one of the things that it takes time to build and takes a moment to destroy, for real. And the other thing that I really appreciate is what you say about adaptability. Adaptability is the key factor for me that allow the human species to evolve in years. It's not the strength. It's not being the strongest, because humans have never been the strongest animal species on Earth, right? But they were the one adapting to weather change, adapting to different terrains, adapting to changes in nature, and evolving this way. And that's why we ended up, we were crawling, and now we stand up on our feet, and we were able to see more, see farther. And that's how we became the humans that we know today. And talking about evolution, I'm very curious about how you use technology, if you use technology, especially AI, because now we're entering this new age of artificial intelligence. I'm very curious on how, if you do actually use AI in your leadership and you're leading your team every day.
Yes, we do, and we work with AI on several levels. And the first element is like to understand and get insights out of data. We leverage our own tools, to work with our customers. So we use our CRM as the main tool for our productivity. But this leads us to have a significant amount of data that we can leverage to make a decision. The point is, like, the data is one thing, insights is the next thing. We need to adapt it, and this is where AI helps us doing it. So we analyze calls, we understand how long we've been speaking compared to how long our customer has been speaking. What keywords have we been talking about? Like, what was the sentiment of that call? And that is on a single conversation or aggregated. And so we get information on how we can coach our reps to become better. We have information around like what kind of elements of feedback we are getting from the market, and we can move that feedback to our engineers to develop those functions that may be missing or may not be hitting the need of the customer. So all of this is done through AI, and which is supporting us in our job. It's like is a kind of a joint venture that we are having, and I feel like it empowers all of us to do a better job.
Do you see AI also? I know a lot of people fear AI, you know, like, oh, they're taking over our jobs, we're gonna be jobless. Do you fear that AI is gonna take over your job, your position, or leadership position in general?
Well, like we don't know the future, so it's something that it would be silly not to be worried about the risk, as it would be silly not to be excited about the opportunity. I think it will change the way I work, and I have trust in us as a species to adapt and become even better. No, and we made mistakes along the way, and we always been able to course correct. So I believe we can do that again if we go down a path that is not beneficial for us. No, but going back to your point, definitely it's changing the way I work. But I actually feel more empowered now than I was before, and I feel more of support and service to my team now that I have these tools. And
yeah, and we went back to the adapting, you know.
fire at the time was very scary for a lot of people, and it helped us.
Right, and if we think to other technological changes back in the days, like, you know, when farmers saw those machines, tractors, you know, coming into their fields, they got scared, like, oh, we're gonna lose jobs. But they just changed it. Actually, those machines allow them to have higher production, as you mentioned, right? So it increases the speed of processes and things. AI pretty much is the same. And but right now, my assessment is that the human dimension of leadership, basically really dealing with the other people, the soft skills, those are hardly replaceable for now from AI. I mean, at least for the next decade, it's going to be hard to find a machine that can really replace humans when you need to talk to a person. When there are some professions, for example, that for now are quite safe from AI, but we will change. We found new jobs, we found new positions. I like this view. And you know a lot about changes also, right? Because you've been transitioning, as I mentioned at the beginning, from being an entrepreneur on your own, you had your own company, to work for bigger companies like Google or HubSpot. What is the change? What is the difference? I'm sorry. What is the difference between leading your own company and leading a team in a much, much bigger company?
There are differences. There are also much more analogies than what I expected when I actually decided to join Google first. No, and I was really scared to say, "Oh my gosh, I will lose my autonomy." And the reality is not the case. No, like you first, as an entrepreneur, you even if you founded the company, you always have people that you have to report to no matter what. No, can be other co-founders, can be key stakeholders within the organization, customers, you name it. No, so there is always that element. It's not different in a large organization. It is really about like the culture of the organization that really defines whether you can express yourself and contribute above what is like your well-defined role, and whether you can do that. And I was lucky enough that both Google and HubSpot share those cultural values of empowerment of each employee, and allow magic things to happen. No? Like if you think about Google, Gmail was created by someone that wasn't actually working on Gmail. It was like a side project that they started. No, the 20% projects that defined Google in the early days that generated amazing solutions and products. And similarly in HubSpot, like we are always brainstorming, thinking, and that is not like tied to a specific role. No, it can be an individual contributor working with directors, working with the CEO in a specific on a specific project. And this is amazing because it creates this common understanding of the purpose and sharing of the values.
Yeah, and you've been lucky to find two companies like Google and HubSpot. Actually, my understanding is their culture resonates with you, right? So it's you find yourself pretty much comfortable in a company like this. But I'm sure that you had your challenges, right? And what is the biggest challenge you have faced, if you mind sharing, and how you deal with it?
I'll share a funny story, and manager at the time will laugh about it. The first was language. Like when I moved, I could barely speak English, and I moved to Ireland, and my manager was Irish. We couldn't understand each other, and we had to find a way.
Well, Irish is. I don't want any Irish to get upset, but it's quite difficult.
Next level of English. No, it's not the English that you've been taught at school in Italy, no, and I was terrible even at that. So imagine the rest, no. But so we needed to find a way to communicate, you know, find a common ground again, and that was difficult. Was at time really I thought probably this won't work out, but in the end, like there was this element of mutual trust and believe that we could have added value to each other that allowed us to develop that. But the first months were difficult, like in all senses. So the other examples is when basically a decision that is needed for the company impacts you and your team in a negative way, and that is being part of a large organization, no? And you need to accept it, and you need to work with whatever it is the requirements behind that decision, and make sure that like you're supporting the organization in that journey, no? And sometimes remove yourself from the equation and say, okay, why are we doing this? No, I understand it. Okay, how can we do it the best way possible? And you move on. No? There is that element that at the beginning was tough to understand, and even now, I must admit, sometimes, no, you feel like, that's not great. But then you take a step back and you allow yourself to work within it. The good stuff, that nothing is as terrible as it looks like. There is, if there are best intent at the beginning, like everything usually solves itself out.
Yeah, it's hard to lead a team when you don't really agree upon whatever you're doing, but it's just something imposed by above, and it happens, right? And then of course, each of us, especially people who have a great experience like you do, you have your opinions, you have your mindset and your values and beliefs and whatever, and sometimes you just have to do things because you are told to. And you have to motivate your team. You have to find a way to accomplish the task despite you're really not convinced about it. And you cannot just say, "Oh, I wouldn't do it, but we have to do it." That doesn't work well. It doesn't sound well.
It doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work at all. That's an interesting statement, because it happens sometimes, you know. And the first element that I always do is going back to whatever is my boss, and ask a simple question. I need to understand the why. Why are we doing it? And I keep asking until I get it into my stubborn head. And sometimes, like my manager's been saying, Fabio, you already asked. I said, yeah, but that wasn't good enough. And because if I don't understand the why, how can I communicate it effectively to my team? No? And but once I have that understanding, that broader understanding, then I can motivate the team. No, I can communicate with them, and we can find a path forward, and can be a different path from the one that has been identified early on, and we can even challenge the decision. No? And then those organizations have been proven to be flexible in that sense. And if there was a good alternative, then that alternative was taken and adopted. And that's probably is another trait. Now, we talked about humility at the beginning. Probably another trait of leadership is, again, tied to humility, but it's like being able to be a good follower as a leader, no, and take like the approach saying your decision is much better than mine, and it can be done myself up or the other way down, no, and getting one of my managers to challenge it. Happened earlier today, and I think one of my managers saying like we should be doing differently, and we discussed it, and then I thought you're right, we should be doing it differently. And we agreed on going ahead with their decision.
Yeah, and actually, there is an interview that I've done, one of the previous episodes with Matthew Gold, and it actually was really how leaders are followers as well. You know, how they should be ready to not just. I'm not saying just abdicate the role. It's not abdicating the role of leaders, because at the end of the day, the decisions are made by the leader, you know, like with all the support from the staff, from a lot of people, from technology, whatever, but the decision is made by the leader. But at some point, any team member can take the lead, can have the right idea, can speak out and express something that is kind of a winning, can be a winning solution. And that's how everyone can take the lead. And it's, so all the voices in a team can be heard and valued, you know, every time.
Yeah, if we agree on the statement that we are not the smartest in the room, then that comes without any doubt. No, like you need to listen to the people that are smarter than you in that sense, and making sure that everyone has the right context to support you. The leader is accountable for the decision made. That is what the leader is, and needs to make sure that once the decision is made, we do our best to deliver on that path that we chose, no? And that's like full responsibility of the leader.
Have you ever felt, talking about this, have you ever felt the loneliness, what is called the loneliness of the leader?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it happens a lot. It's definitely like you have moments where basically you are because you are the one accountable to make the decision, and you have a problem. Like again, like there is risk in any path, and you have a limited information despite AI tools and everything. You know that like you're making kind of like a bet, no, and you're just trying to reduce as much as possible the risk associated with that bet. But in the end, you are the one that has to make the call, no? And that is, by definition, a little bit of a role that separates you from the rest of the people. The other element is, I always think that you need to stay close to your team, but at the same time, you cannot be too close to your team members, because that may obfuscate your decision-making process, no? And because then emotions and attachment would lead you to probably make a decision over another that is based on those emotions, no? So like you need to balance again, like this balancing act that is leadership, no? And try to have both.
Can I ask you to, that's a very interesting concept, but can I ask you to elaborate a little bit more on this, not too close, how to keep this balance between being close enough, but not too close?
Yeah, it's tough one. It's tough one. You share like most of your awake life with your team, no? And you create bonds, you build trust, you build a relationship, but you cannot be a friend. And it's interesting. I got that early in my career when I was a manager, and one of my reps said like, "We can be friendly, but we won't be friends." And I said, "What are you talking about? Like, I want to be friends." And then I realized what he meant by that, you know? And it's kind of probably similarly to parenting a little bit, you know? Like you cannot be a friend of your sons. You need to be the parent, you know? And you have responsibilities, you have a decision that you need to make that sometimes need to be made to do the best for the broader organization and may penalize some people in your team. And you need to be able to make those decisions with a clear mind and the right data, not being obfuscated by the fact that you love that person and would like to retain them in that role.
How do you react when one of your team members or more tries to befriend you, is too friendly with you, and probably because they misinterpret this your being close, and they don't get it's not too close. How do you deal with that?
It's again, like, you need to be clear probably from the beginning. Well, I have an amazing relationship with former colleagues, former team members, and actual team members. It's just the definition of the roles has to be clear from the beginning and has to be reinforced and clarified on the way, and again, like we're having tons of fun, like we laugh together, probably sometimes we cry together, like it's it depends, but at the same time we both have different roles, and we are expected to do different things, and my team members are expected to provide me hard feedback if I don't deliver on my role towards them. Similarly, that's an expectation on me to do the same. So like that's by definition, it's something that needs to be kept in place, and again, you can be friendly and have fun together, but you need to be able to still execute in your role.
Yeah, it's I agree. I like this approach, and I also know that it's not easy because some people might actually think that they're friends of you, and then that you're being friendly and you're being open and fun might be interpreted like, oh, I want to go and then meet and now I have a relationship with this person even outside the job. But I got that. Yeah, it's not easy.
And I have it. Sorry, let me clarify, because I have those relationships with people that we have been team members together, or people that have been part of my team. In that exact moment of you as a leader of that team, though, at any time you may be asked to make a decision and have to reduce the number of people in that team. And that is to save the majority of the people. And now, like, how can you be objective making that decision if you let your emotions come in? And so that is the kind of, how can you be effective in communicating that decision, if you let those emotions to come in? So that's the kind of dichotomy again of leadership, and one of the things that makes leadership so tough and consuming, and you see some leaders like really after 5 years, 10 years, like age 30 years, and probably that is one of the elements that consume people.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I come from an environment where, that's the military one, where there are kind of very strict levels, and there are ranks. It's not just ranks. Even within ranks, there are differentiators. Like, you are an officer, you are a petty officer, you are enlisted. So there are categories, if you want. I sometimes wonder if all of this is still necessary, but in such a strict way. But that's something I'm trying to figure out in my own path, in my own journey outside the military.
Probably like a research to make, like Google early days decided that they could run without managers. So they remove all managerial position. It was really early days, and they were experimenting, and so no more managers at all. And 2 months, probably 3 months, like I'm not super sure about the time frame, but a short time frame, everyone pulled up their hand saying, "Nah, we need the managers back. We need that element of support, that element of coordination." So again, balance. You cannot have too many levels, because then it becomes too slow to make a decision, because you need to have that decision approved 7 times. It's insane. And at the same time, you cannot keep it too flat, otherwise it's really difficult to coordinate. And that's an interesting, what is the right balance? And probably it's dynamic as well. I think in a situation of emergency, you may need to have smaller teams, and in situations of more of a standardized work, where less change is needed, you may expand a little bit the size of the team. So that's another element that it's part of like adapting, I think.
Yeah, well, when we think about examples of deep democracy in the past, you can see that, as you say, right, in an emergency time, that doesn't work well. I think the most common example, or the most known example, is Athens. Especially during the Peloponnesian Wars, when they had to deal with the Spartans, who were very hierarchical, right? So there was the king, who was a decision maker, while the Athenians, they were struggling because there was this guy who was trying to convince everyone else publicly. So they had to hold speeches, and that's when this public speaking became an art, because it's really, you had to get into the mind of people, and Sparta was successful. Athens was successful. I'm sorry, but it required a lot of energy, a lot of effort. And you still needed, by the way, the guy, even if informally, as you mentioned, was able to kind of take the lead and make decisions for everyone else. That's an interesting experiment. I didn't know about Google, but what I know is that many companies now are even still keeping managing position, managers and everything, but they are trying to reduce the distance between employees and the leading team. So not too many layers. I don't know if you have experienced that.
We haven't gone through that, but I truly believe that in times like this, like a leader should be up in the front, like as much as they can, and really be sharing as much as they can with the people that are in the field, whatever is the field. Now, for us, is like the reps that are talking to customers. You need to work with them, like see it with your own eyes, show that you're there, walk in their shoes. Like that's all the elements that are needed, because otherwise, like you may be too detached, removed, and not really understand the intricacies of what they're experiencing in day to day. In my agenda, as an example, like I have a time that cannot be booked over only for customer meetings, and my reps just book me in. And I said that's the best way you have to get me in front of, like, communicate to me, and share with me what, like, you're seeing every day, and I think this is important. At the same time, you cannot go, again, another balancing act. You cannot go into too much details, otherwise you lose the big picture. So again, like, what do you do? And if you think about all of these levers, that a leader has, we talk about, like, trust, building trust, but not friendship. Leader, there is humility at the same time, decisions that need to be made, speed and risk, all of these levers that they cannot be stable, so in a situation you may need to push one lever one way and pull the other one on the other way, to be reacting to what the market, what the dynamic around you, is exposing you to, and then again go back, and if you have over-indexed in one, being able to pull back into a more standard element. And the only way to do it, sometimes it's difficult, as a leader, at least for me, has been difficult sometimes, is getting your people to tell you, hey, Fabio, all good. But now we are back into, like, a different stage, and we should be rebalancing. And the only way you get that feedback is if you have built trust to begin with.
I like the word trust, and the role that trust plays in those kind of relationships, and those kind, when you are a leader. But, and I mean, trust probably has a great role in all the relationships that we have, not just within our team, a home or friends or whatever. And it's sometimes it's undervalued. There was something that you said earlier that really, when we were talking about the loneliness of the leader. And this is something actually it was included in one of the previous conversation I had in this podcast about, some people say, oh, you don't need to be lonely. You have your stuff, you have your team, as we mentioned, you have your technology. Do you think that if you create the right environment with your team, kind of the perfect environment, you can eliminate the loneliness, the sensation of being lonely? Or do you think that this is something that will stay forever and will never go? You can mitigate, but not eliminate.
I think, again, it's not that you're lonely all the time. Is that exactly, like you're having fun. As I said, like, I chose leadership because I could work with people. I love working with people, and I love that energy that you're getting from working together. At the same time, there is that decision, and that decision can only be made by you, and you are the one facing the consequences. That is where the loneliness is, and that moment cannot be taken away. And because you have to embrace it, and it's actually part of your leadership. And then you have other moments of, I don't know, hangover of emotions, and I don't know what the opposite of loneliness is, like the exact opposite. And I feel like, wow, I'm part of a family, I'm part of a group, I'm part of a huge thing. We're moving together. But I think both of them exist and will always exist, no matter what. Like, otherwise, you're not taking all the responsibilities that you have as a leader, and you're skipping some.
What kind of leader are you? In few words, if someone asks you, let's say I'm a new employee, I'm talking to you, and you have to describe yourself as a leader in a nutshell, what would you say? I'm
really early stages as a leader. Like, probably you haven't been very lucky getting me, but here we are. and we have to make the most out of it. And the only way is to work together. I like contracts, probably because I'm in sales. No? So my contract is like, I will give you the honest truth, nothing else, but I expect the same from you. And that's the only way that I can move from the type of leader I am now to a better leader, thanks to you, no? And probably that's the only ask that I have, is like to help me there. I, as a person, differently from a leader, I don't mind last minute things, like you can bring me into an emergency meeting and you will see me excited. I don't mind working hard. I like if I'm challenged by a problem, I can spend 2 days and 2 nights working on it, and I don't mind doing it. I actually feel energized by that. I love seeing people developing. I get frustrated when things are slow. I get really frustrated when things are slow, and when I feel like I enter in a room and there is no trust, I get a little bit frustrated about that. As I said, early stages, but like working on it.
Working on it. Okay, you convinced me. I can work with you. You say that, I heard, that being humble is one of the characteristics for you, for that a leader needs to have, and I can see that in you. I mean, and you said, that you are at early stages, and yet you have a pretty wide experience on leadership. Well, talking about being humble, Fabio,
So
what is the... Say it again.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How can you define a good leader? I don't. There is no.
Oh,
is that it's a big one, no?
Yeah, it's a huge. I mean, and I like when you said at the beginning. Actually, you repeat it many times. It's about adaptation. For me, it's all about adaptation. A good leader is not the one that has. For me, I mean, thank you for asking the question. No one asked it actually. I don't think there is the one skill or the one leadership style. It's all about understanding the moment, the situation, the team you're working with, and then even within the same team, there are moments, as you say, that you need to. There is an urgency, and you probably can rely on a smaller team or on yourself, and that's it. And you make the decision, and or other moments in which you can be more democratic, more open, more available to hear all the voices and listen to those voices. So those are adaptability is really, for me, one of the main characteristics, and everything else that you say, like building trust, being able to build trust, trusting others, and being a trustful person, and all those kind of things. And the main thing is that I don't have a definition of leadership. I ask this question every time. I love listening to those answers. And this is
different.
Yeah. This is the 18th episode. I mean, it's not like I have hundreds. I never heard twice the same answer, and that's the beauty of it, right? We have our own view.
Yeah, I think this is why you cannot use an absolute adjective to define leadership. It cannot be good leadership. There is better leadership where you can aim to. Like Simon Sinek was talking about the theory of the infinite gains. Like it's an infinite line. You are wherever you are in that line. You have so much in front of you, and so you can only hope that you can progress a little bit further and a little bit further. And then this is why I think it's exciting. Like it's probably the job you never get tired of, because you can only develop and progress. Or you can also go back, actually. But it's dynamic.
It is dynamic, absolutely. As you mentioned, it's all about changing. Time changes, people changes. Leaders have to change constantly. I am scared of those who think they have learn enough. They know everything. They are the person or the leader. It doesn't matter. I think even the person that you ought to be. That I don't think you will never. I hope I will never get tired of learning new things. And this podcast is one of the ways for me to learn new things. Talking to people, getting to know people like you, Fabio. It's lovely to talk to, and learn from you, or learn from other people. Listen to different stories. I might not agree with you. I don't. That's not important. I'm listening to you. And talking about your journey, Fabio, not my journey. Let me ask you. So, what is the biggest flaw that you have? The thing you're working on that you want to get better at right now in this moment as a leader.
There are several. I will tell you some that are recent, probably not the most important, and I will elaborate on my answer probably while I go. Time management is becoming more. And but the problem associated with that, and this is why it's bothering me, is that I'm not in control of my own calendar, and that is a problem for me, because then I cannot allocate time enough to the things that I deem more important than others, and it is a constant struggle, no, being able to balance the urgent versus the important, no, and making sure that you dedicate time to all the things that you need to keep going, no? And so that is one. The other one is probably associated with it, is that sometimes we because we are time poor, we send out that email too early, or we answer to a question, no, with an answer instead of asking another question, and that sometimes leads to significant mistakes. And when you do them, you know that you're better than that, no, but no matter what, you made that mistake, no, and so that's something that again, something that you probably won't be able to perfect, but there is a lot of improvement that can be done. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, there is room for improvement, and I'm sure that as you say, having feedbacks from the people you work with helps really have a view or where you are in your journey to be a better leader and a better person at the same time. Well, and this is a perfect lead to the last question for this episode, and like every other episode, I'm sorry. What is, if someone comes to you and asks you for a suggestion to be a good leader, what is that you will tell to this person?
Well, I would need to understand why they want to be leaders in the first place.
As Simon Sinek always say, starts with why.
It's so simple, but it's so important, no? Like, it's everything starts and finishes there. Like, it's because if you have clarity on why you want to do something, then you have an understanding of what is needed, no, to deliver in that sense, no? And it's just that element of clarity that sometimes people don't have, no. I have a lot of people coming to me, I want to become a people manager, and like, well, why? And by the way, there's a huge difference between leader and people manager, but like it's sometimes when we have that conversation, then it becomes clear to them that what they want is having more opportunities of leadership, and most often than not, those opportunities they lie within their role, no? And so it's more their interpretation of the role that changes and make them strong leaders that can influence the decision made by the CEO of a company of more than 7,000 employees. It happened. So that's the kind of is it leadership? The title you have is what you or is it what you do, no, day in and day out? And I think it's the second, like it's what you do, no, and the title means very, very little, if nothing.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Fabio. Thank you for having me with us. Thank you for your humbleness, your openness, and having shown us your view of leadership. And I've appreciated a lot of things you've said, and especially the infinite game of leadership. I like this view of it. And well, I wish you the best, and thank you again for having been here.
Thank you, Stefano. I really appreciated being here, and thanks for the chat. It was really good.